Okay, let's talk about marriage and love. Let us talk about marriage and love. So, I don't think marriage should be predicated on love because love is seasonal. Love can disintegrate, love can vanish with time. So, what's going to happen if love is on leave while you are on a relationship, especially a relationship labeled as marriage? So, that is why, even though I'm reprehensible with this statement, I'm open for criticism. But this is how I think I think it should be. Love should not be the base, should not be the base foundation of our marriage, if I could put it that way. Um, love it's seasonal, especially if you still having this insatiable drive, of getting someone, of embarking and engaging in a relationship with someone. So I think the level of romance, sexual arousement is at the brink, which will include things like flirting, crush, infatuation, lust, and what's not, and so forth. I believe all those things are like segments and components. All those elements played a vital role in love. If you love somebody, but you run out of those segments, all of these ingredients, flirting, crush, infatuation, lust, and all of these things, I don't think you have a full package of love if these things are absent in your love. Let me repeat it again. I don't think marriage should be predicated on love because love is seasonal and love is conditional. Especially, let me just make a typical example, hypothetical speaking. If two people um, are on talks, on negotiating about embarking and engaging in a relationship in the form of marriage, I think a man looks, a man prioritize character, attitude, behavior, the way a woman conduct herself, her perceptions, her perspective, as well as beauty. It is not predicated on love, right? As well as a woman. When a woman is searching for a partner, searching for a husband, is not searching for a sex champion, is not searching for someone who's gonna love her. It's fine, they can hide, they can disguise on that umbrella of love, but it's not what they prioritize in a relationship. Women prioritize security in their relationship. When women embark and engage in relationship in the form of this label, which is called marriage, they are searching for someone who will provide resources for them. Things like shelter, cars, food, clothes, you know they are searching for such particular individual. They are not searching for love. That is why there is like tons and tons and tons, plethora of guys who get rejected while they have like pure genuine love, just simply because they could not be able to provide all these other indispensable, resources, uh, hence I've labeled these things. Women are searching for providers, provide shelter, provide cars, transportation, girlfriend allowance, food, clothing, you know, lavish life if it comes to a push, which which almost majority of women would prefer that if given a choice, if they are not going to be settling, if they can stick to their priorities. So love is not involved in this whole process. I cannot say love is involved here because there are many, 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 quite numerous number of guys who gets rejected by women just simply because they could not afford to provide. Like for instance, if I could just make a typical example, you're bumping into a very beautiful, stunning, flamboyant woman in shopping centers by the mall, and then you're approaching this woman. Fine, exchange contact, and then you then go home, try to communicate with this woman. If you don't have enough money, some women can just test you by giving you their contact number, which they don't use for social networks like WhatsApp, Telegram, and all these other social media platforms, so that it will compel you, it will coerce you to call them, to have airtime, not data, but airtime, strictly airtime to call them, to reach unto them, right? So let us assume that you are a poor guy, you don't have an income. It's highly impossible. It is very highly difficult for a person who is not working, who doesn't have an income, to have airtime. I think those particular people, they are content, they are satisfied with having just data. They can use data to communicate. They can forward like voice notes, if they don't want to type messages in the form of text. So I think now a woman will coerce you to use airtime. So now, at some point, somewhere, somehow, if you substantially way broke, you cannot afford to do all of those things. And let's then shift a little bit further and propel forward. And now, let's say you had that 10 rand, 20 rand, to have airtime and call her. And then how coherent are you going to be doing that? I think in just a fraction of time, that communication will will disintegrate as time progresses, because you cannot sustain that expense of each and every time. Almost a week, maybe you'll call this woman twice and then you'll run out of airtime, and the communication will be very cliche, and then that will put you in a position where you more prone to lose that woman, or either to entice or lure or persuade or convince her, to be in your side. So it is very difficult. So now you have to meet this woman. You don't have money. Automatically, majority of them will suggest that, okay, I don't have a problem seeing you. Where are we going to meet? Problem number two, you don't have money to pay for restaurants, because when they suggest that we should meet in public spaces, according to females' preference, they're going to say, let us meet in public spaces. And what's going to happen in public spaces? They are not going to be responsible for the bills in public spaces. This is how I construed public space. They are basically saying, take me out to a specific restaurant. They are not talking about parks. They are not talking just about to walk around the mall. They are talking specifically about restaurants. If you're talking about restaurants, they are not referring to KFC or maybe McDonald's. They're just referring to these resort, extravagant, lavish restaurants according to their preferences, even though they can probably ended up admiring if you could take them to McDonald's. But most of them, if you're talking about taking them out and then you reference to McDonald's, it cringes them. It baffles them up. They don't get along with it. So if you're running out of money, it's going to be very hard to convince a woman to come into your side, to embark and engage in a relationship, even though you have this thing that they claim to prioritize, which is love. So, love is not a component that prevails, that maintains, that keeps a relationship, right? It is about resources. That is why women are incentivized and they have this propensity to search for providers rather than people who will just love them. Even that guy who doesn't have any shits together, they can provide pure love, but you will choose not to date that guy because your love is conditional. It is not predicated on love. It is predicated on other items than love. So that is why I'm saying marriage should not be predicated on love. There are other prerequisite priority that should be put forth in order to embark and engage in a relationship, especially in the form of marriage relationship. So that's my point. And I've mentioned earlier on that I'm very reprehensible about this statement. I know there will be some people who will throw words like stone towards these dialectics, the art of investigating and discussing the truth of the opinion, how true this is. But, so we will strive at the level best of our potential to go the extra mile trying to please these women with meeting their expectations. But sometimes the priority is not love. Let me put it that way. Thank you very much.